Today we're going to do my final power rankings for the regions of EMEA and Pacific. I will do an Americas and China one. Let's dive into Pacific and just take a look at what I did a couple weeks ago. And, you know, the top 5, yeah, that's fine. Talent 6, fine. Actually, DFM I had 7th, which, you know, not too bad. Probably I'm slightly regretting Nongshim being this low, but Pacific is very competitive. But I also do have Zeta here down in 12th, so definitely some mistakes have been made. Okay, so let's kick off with Pacific then, and well, I think it's pretty easy. We're gonna put Boom at the bottom. They're the only team that didn't win a match this whole stage. In 11th place, again, not too difficult for me here. I think it's gonna go Team Secret. Really, it's just a debate between them and Global. They did beat Global head-to-head, but I think overall Global, you know, showed more than Team Secret across the board. Next up is Global, right? I think that this is a pretty easy bottom 3, with actually a pretty easy 4th bottom as well, because despite winning a couple games towards the end of the stage, I do think you have to put Zeta Division in there as well, and those are actually the 4 teams that did miss the playoffs. So we do obviously have the standings, you know, which is giving us some, you know, way of power ranking these teams, but obviously that's not an exact science. Now let's move towards our top 8, and I am actually gonna, this might be a slight hot take, but I'm actually going to put DFM in 8. The fact that they lost earlier today as I'm recording this against T1 and didn't look very good in that game, obviously that is part of it because that's a game that they played, but I do think that DFM, you know, May was playing at an unbelievable level. I don't think that it's really that possible for, you know, one player to just consistently play like that well. Like, you know, May can still play very well, but to play, like, you know, as the best player in the world, is he going to do that every week? No, and I think we saw that this week. So, and I think that all these other teams are probably going to be more consistent and just kind of better throughout, to be honest. Now, next up, again, this is where I think it does get a little bit tough. You might call this playing this safe. I am still going to go Nongshim in 7 here. I know that they beat Gen G, but I think when you look at the longer term of Nongshim, you understand that, yeah, they can compete with these teams. You know, on good days, they can beat those teams and be very, very strong. But on their bad days, they can also get kind of trounced by those teams. And so that's why I'm putting them at 7. I just think that the others are a little bit more consistent. I am going to stick with the regular top 5, right? These are the top 5 in terms of champ points in Pacific, and I do think that they are the best 5 teams. I think that Talon are just like a little bit below them overall. And I think we saw that. I think you could easily put Talon here, you know, down in 7 if you wanted to swap them with Nongshim. But I do think these 5 teams just are the best teams. And now let's talk about ordering them, because Gen G are kind of the outlier here, right? With a big loss to Nongshim in their most recent game, which actually means that they're in 4th place. So their actual chances of making champs they might struggle to actually get to champs now with the way it's all lined up. However, I still think that Gen G are a better team overall than actually quite a few of these others. I think that the worst team of these right now is actually probably RRQ. I think RRQ, look, I don't love the Waylay. I'll be honest, they're playing a lot of Waylay and I don't love it. 4th, I think I'm going to put T1. I'm still not fully convinced by them. They have some nice moments, but they also, I still don't fully trust the consistency all the time. I'm going to put Gen G in 3rd, because I do think you have to take into account that loss somewhat. You know, that they didn't look very good. Texture had a disaster on Lotus, and I think that's fair. And even though DRX, I don't think have looked, you know, world beaters either. They've just kind of consistently, you know, gone along with their business and looked pretty good for most of this stage. So I'm going to reward them with 2nd and still put Paper X up at number 1. For obvious reasons, I shouldn't really have to explain Paper X being in 1. And that's where I see it right now. But in terms of, like, chances of making champs, I'd probably say T1 are more likely than Gen G at making champs. And it's probably close between RRQ and Gen G because they are starting in the lowers despite having a slight point advantage over RRQ. And now let's move on to EMEA, where, well, this one is perhaps even worse than the Pacific one before. Okay, the top 3, we know the top 3. We'll get to that debate in a second because it is interesting now. Then you've got BBL Vitality, not too bad. I've put Koi in 6, that will definitely change. KC 7, Giants 8, Mates 9, Foot 10. I mean, it's not woeful. This is woeful though. This is woeful and will be changing. Don't worry about it. Okay, so let's start at the bottom, and Apex is staying at the bottom. No surprise there. And I am going to put Gentlemates in 11. Look, I know Gentlemates have had actually some pretty good performances, but they can't win a game. They're already relegated at this point, so who cares? Put them in 11. Koi are going in 10 because Koi... I actually think the start of the season, even though they were losing to Fnatic and Liquid, actually did give me some hope that they were, you know, in those games and in those maps. And then even though they won last week, like, Jesus Christ, I don't think they're playing very well these last couple of weeks, to be honest. Then is when it gets hard, though. I think that's a very obvious, like, bottom 3 from what I'm seeing. Next, though, is pretty tough. And I think you could argue probably between, like, Foot, Giants, KC, and Vitality, I think, are the next 4 teams in some order. And I think it's really tough to separate these 4 teams. So actually, I'm going to kind of skip them. So we're going to skip 9, 8, 7, 6 and actually move to some positions that I am very confident on, which is BBL are going to go in 5th. And Navi, who I put in 11th last time, are going to go in 4th. Now, Navi have been the team that have impressed me quite a lot. Okay, and I know that, you know, that might shock some of you, and you might think that BBL have been better. But actually, I think Navi have played some good games and played some good Valorant in the past couple of weeks. They should have beaten Fnatic, to be honest. We'll get to them in a second, because Fnatic obviously are still in the big 3, despite their loss. But we'll get to these 3, obviously, in a little bit of time. We'll get to them at the end, because I think this is an interesting discussion between these 3. But these 2, I feel very confident in where they are. Back to this debate of these 4 clowns. The problem is, it's such a hard debate. Now, if I'm... Like, again... Maybe this is the hopeful version of me for EMEA, right? But I kind of want to put Giants in 9th because I think they have the lowest ceiling of these teams. That's honestly a tough... whoever I put in 6th, I'm going to feel pretty horrible about because I don't think any of these teams deserve to be that high. Let's try and pass it out, though. I think Giants have the lowest ceiling. Weirdly enough, they're 3-1. They did lose to Foot, though. And you don't get any points for beating Gentlemates. So yeah, I am going to stick Giants in 9th. Vitality are a weird one, because when Vitality are good, they are actually quite good, but when they're bad, they are shockingly bad. And I think they probably have the lowest floor of any of these teams, although Foot's floor is also quite low. And this is what I mean, like, putting Carmine Core in 6th just feels awful, because their floor is also quite low. And I don't want to do that. I really don't want to put KC there if I can help it. I don't think I can help it. I think I'm going to put Foot in 8. And I think they'll probably lose to BBL. And they might miss playoffs as well. Man, I'm going to put KC in 6. I'm going to put KC in 6, despite the fact... I mean, look, Aves is good. So that's one thing they've got going for them. But this is genuinely very hard. I would love to know what you think of these 4 teams, how you would rate them. And let's come to the top 3, which is also a super interesting discussion, right? Like, who's first out of these 3? How would you rank these 3 teams? And I think it's only fair to put Fnatic in 3rd. I do think it's only fair to actually put Fnatic in 3rd. Because I think they do have some problems right now, right? And it's getting exposed. They should have lost to Navi as well. And then you get this debate between Heretics and Team Liquid. And this is a difficult one because they don't play each other, right? They're in different groups. They'll end up winning their separate groups. So, you know, it's a difficult debate. Even though Liquid did just stomp Fnatic and I think looked very impressive, I am still going to give the edge to Heretics overall, just in terms of... Kiko was talking about, you know, this is the first week for Liquid where it felt like it really clicked, and I do think you can see that in what had happened before, right? They weren't a perfect team before, but I want to see that that's not a one-off. Whereas I think Heretics, I can give a bit more benefit of the doubt of being that team for a longer time. So that's what I'm going to go for. So that is my power ranking. This will be the last power ranking for EMEA and Pacific, at least done regionally. Let me know what you thought of them in the comments down below. And I will be back soon with the Americas and China one, and also, you know, talking about Liquid and their stomp of Fnatic.